Welcome back to Satisfactory. We are now on episode 5, so don't hesitate to check in the video description below if you want to see the full playlist, if you want to see the previous episode. We went through the tutorial, tier 0, went through tier 1, and we've started to went through tier 2. This is actually the last episode for tier 2. We definitely want to finish tier 2 and also build the space elevator so that then we can move to tier 3 and the coal generators. So what do you think this new factory that I have in front of me is? Before we talk about this quick factory, a quick reminder, we have of course our electricity production over here, we have our concrete factory in white in the back, we have over here our copper factory making both wires and cable, and we also have built in the last episode, remember, an iron plate and reinforced iron plate factory, right? But we didn't manage to build in the last episode the screw factory. Now this is corrected, this is actually this one over here. As you can see, quite a few screws are coming. But before we talk about the screw one, let's go back over here to our reinforced concrete and iron one. You know, I've finished completely cleaning it. As you can see, we've put walls all around. We've also put a couple of stairs so that now we're able to go to level 1, both the logistic floor and the real floor, and similarly for level 2. And therefore we have indeed our normal iron plates over here and our reinforced one that are coming on both sides. But yes, over here we built this big factory, this big block that is producing almost 500 screws per minute. This is huge, and this is actually sort of a perfect productivity for one node. We have one node over here, as always. This is a pure node for iron, 122 iron per minute, and as I said, providing almost 500. This is, to be precise, 480. And then all of those ingots are going to be transformed into rods by 8 constructors. Then all of those rods, 120 rods, are going to be transformed into screws. This is where we're making 480 with 12 constructors. All of this for around 100 of power in this base factory. Here is the top floor where you can see those 12, 6 on each side for the screws. And you may be wondering, 480, how am I doing that with our belts that we have? We have the Mark 2, so 120 per minute, that's definitely not enough. But you may have already realized that 480 divided by 4 is 120. So basically we have this into 4 groups of 3. We have those 3 over there that are together, those 3 over there together, and the same on the other side. But what do I mean by that? Well, let's go down to the previous floor and you'll see it. On the outside, this side over here and all the way over here, we have the rod. Right, so this is my rods that are coming, and this is actually 60 on each side, right? So this is a normal level 1 belt, nothing special about that. And it's the same on the other side, as I said. But then for the screws that are made in the middle, right, you can see in those 4 blocks. We have over here 3 that are going this way, 3 going this way, and 3 this way, and 3 that way. And this one definitely do need to be Mark 2, this is what you can see. Similarly for the elevators. The 2 on this side are actually going into those 2 storage containers over here. But you know, the truth is that right now we don't really need 500 screws per minute. So on the other side, I decided to be a bit more sneaky, and the screws are coming over here. As you can see, the first one there and the second over here. And they're going into those 2 awesome sinks to make us some coupons. I mean, it's not a huge number of coupons, but still, I mean, as long as I have electricity, this will give me a number of coupons per minute. This is on level 1 where we also have our 4 smelters, right? And then level 2, let's go to it quickly. This is where we're doing actually the ingots into rods, right? So we have the 8s that are transforming ingots into rods. And this one, as I said, you know, we have half that are going this side, half on the other side, which you can see over here in the back, right? We have our conveyors that are coming with ingots, and then on the outside over here we have the roads when they are built that are going and going up. So overall, honestly, a fairly simple factory. The only complexity is these 480 screws at the end that you need to deal with. I made it on an 8x6 foundation. You could as always make it a bit smaller, but I wanted to make sure I had enough space. So once again, another resource done with a 100% productivity factory. So what is that new one over here? Well, you may remember that in the previous episode I said if we wanted to finish tier 2, the jump pads milestone that you can see in the top right corner, we need some rotors. So this is a factory to make rotors at 100% productivity. And this time this is actually not using 1 node but 2 nodes, at least for Mark 1. This is 240 iron ore to make 20 rotors per minute and also a bit of iron rods. So similar to the iron plate factory that we made, we have two outputs. We have over here the rods and over there the rotors. As you can see, this is once again a 3-level factory. I haven't made it pretty, I just finished it, so wanted to show it to you. We have in the back over here the two pure nodes, right? So 120, 120. But I need to tell you right away, I sort of lied. This is not a 100% productivity factory right now, because to make it a 100% productivity factory, we're gonna need 12.5 constructors for the screws, which means that either you have 12 and one of them is overclock, or you have 13 with one of them being underclock. The problem is we haven't unlocked yet the underclocking and overclocking. So I can't do it yet, but as soon as I can, we can just update that and then it will be a really great one. This is also 500 screws per minute, which is why you may have seen just before that I had 5 of those elevators right now, each of those elevators taking care of 100 screws. Of course, when we unlock Mark 3 or even Mark 4 or 5, then we'll be able to do it a lot easier. But I just wanted to show you that once again, you can do this right at the start of the game. Even if you haven't unlocked everything, you can still make those great factories. So we're gonna have 8 smelters, right? Because this is 240, not 120. Then those smelters are gonna make rods and screws. And it's not just rods that are gonna be all turned into screws. We actually do need some rods for the rotors. Because if you look at the rotors is rods plus screws. So anyway, first our ingots are going into rods. This is 16 constructors. So this is why this factory is also a bit bigger. With that, we're making 240 rods. Let's say half of it is going to go into making screws and the other half is going to be into the assembler with a bit of surplus. As I said, some of those rods are going into screws, 12, 13, depending on what you prefer, and we'll make all of your screws. And then at the end, we do need 5 assemblers, not just 2 or 3, this is 5, so quite a bit and also quite a bit of power. This whole factory is more than 200 megawatts when working at full speed, which is once again, my breaker is done, we don't have electricity right now. We'll have to fix that. But yeah, going back into the game, you can see over here the iron, right, Mark II belt, of course, going into 8 smelter, right, 4 on each side, and then we're getting the iron, right, it's going this side, this side. So at the beginning, you can definitely have only a Mark I, but at the end, it obviously needs to become a Mark II, otherwise you're gonna be limited. And this one goes on this elevator, and we have the same on the other side. Right, so splitting again on each side, because this is 120 and 120. So this is the 8 smelters that you can see over here. Now, if we move to the second floor, first on the logistic floor, we can see all of the iron that's coming, right? It's coming over here. And instead of sort of cutting it in the middle, I decided to be just a bit cleaner and put all of the iron to go all the way over here and then start making it into a clear line. So we have the clear line, going all the way, because all of this is making rods, right? And this is what you see over here. Then we're making rods, rods, rods. Some of them are going to go up. This is this line over here. This line is going up. On the other side, if actually I jump, you can see basically the same thing, right? We have the iron on the outside and then the rod on the inside. But here, instead of going up, these ones are actually going to go down. Why down? They go down all the way over here. They're going down back to the first floor. It's going back into this first floor. As you can see over here, we have all of the rods. Some of them are going into those 3 splitters over there. Some of them are going into those splitters over there. What are they doing? Well, they're going into those assemblers, right? But that's not all, because the assemblers only need 100, right? So we're making more than that, and that's why we have then the output, the additional output that's going directly into our storage over here. But then all of the others are going to the 3rd floor to make our screws, right? This is what's happening all the way over here. We have all of the screws. Again, there's definitely space, right? So if you want to make it smaller, you can, but this is what's happening over here. We're making all of the screws. Let's go back into the foundation so you can see it. Over here, this is where the rods were coming from. Then they get split. And then they start making all of the screws that we have to split. Remember, this is basically 100 per belt. And actually 100 is not so hard to do because this is 2.5 constructors. Each constructor is making 40, right? So one constructor is 40, 2 constructor is 80, and then half of it is 100. Which means basically that I'm merging the first two, then doing a splitter on the third one, and then merging again. And that's how you get to 100. And we have over here the 5 different elevators. And then if we go back to our level 1, right, those 5 elevators are coming, and each of these is going to one assembler, because each assembler is taking 100. So that's a lot of belt, but actually not so hard to do. Of course, as always, don't hesitate to ask if you have any questions, thoughts, comments. I'd love to hear about them. But with that, we're definitely starting to make rotors automated. Of course, I still need to close this factory, clean it a bit. We haven't unlocked a lot more into the awesome shop yet, so can't really make an awesome factory, but I'll try my best. But with that, let's definitely take some of those rotors so that we can go do the jump pads and finish unlocking tier 2. I don't know if I have the other resources. Yeah, perfect. And here it is, jump pad, done. So we have finished tier 2. Now to unlock tier 3, we need to complete the space elevator phase 1, which is actually not just building the space elevator, but also doing something there. But first of all, we do actually need to build it. In terms of resources, I can see it's quite a bit, 500 concrete, 250 iron plates, 400 rods, and 1500 wires. So you definitely want to automate all of this, right? Like you can't just be doing that in your craft bench. Good thing is we're basically there. I mean, I think we have all of those resources. If we look into our different storages, we have the rods over here, just need 400. So we definitely have that. Let's take 600 just to be safe. Then the wires, they are over there. We also have them. Not worried. And the concrete and iron plates are already in our inventory. See, we have tons of it, so it's not the problem because we have automated it all. Now the question is where to build it, right? It is actually a huge building, as you'll see. Let me show it to you. It is huge, right? And also very high. So we have actually a bit of space there. Let me just build a bit of a foundation to try to make it slightly cleaner. In the future, I'm sure we'll move it, we'll put it somewhere else. But for now, I think here will do. So it is, we have a small foundation and a huge building. As you can see, this is definitely huge. It's going to be sent into space when we have the resources. And the first level is not so hard because it's just one resource and only 50. I can assure you this will get harder and harder for sure. But this is something we haven't done yet. This is the smart plating. It is done in an assembler by using one reinforced iron plate and one rotor. So at least we have started to automate those two resources, but we haven't really made a smart plating factory. I've also added 2 more biomass generator over here, but they're starting to consume so much. I have a consumption that is huge. I mean, here it says 300, but actually it's not 300 because I've started to disconnect multiple factories from the main grid because it was getting way too much. For example, this one is not connected at all. I think also the concrete factory is not connected. You can see, there's no connection. I'm not even sure this one is connected either. So I definitely need a lot more than 300. I mean, remember that factory alone behind me is already 200 something. So we're using a lot of electricity right now, which is why I really want to get to the coal power generation as soon as possible. So that will be in the next episode. I'd love also to hear in the comments if you think we should build a smart plating factory or if we should just build, an assembler somewhere and feed it, given that we've already automated both the reinforced iron plate and the rotors. Then in the next episode, it will also be time for us to really start exploring the map. Right now, we will basically build everything into this small clearing that we discovered at the beginning. We haven't moved a lot further. There's, for example, over here, we can clearly see there's one of those blue power slug. We should go get it right away. Maybe let's go now. But there's also many other things that we should be looking at. There's like other metals that we should be looking at. There's also, of course, drop ships that we haven't looked at. So there's many things to find, I think, in the world that we haven't really been looking for. Now, in terms of going over there, you have 3 ways. I think one is really to find a good way from the back. A second is to use those ramps, right? We can create just a gigantic ramp. My suggestion in this case is usually start by where you want to arrive and then just drag it like this, right? And that tells you where you can go. Another is also to use ladders, right? We can put a first ladder over here or a first ladder over there. Now I've built this one now, so let's just use it to get to the slug. There is over here one thing you do need to be careful of. This is an alien creature that's going to basically send some spores into the air. I'll just show you. It's going to be, I'm going to lose a bit of, yeah, you can see here it's coming, so I'm going to lose some energy, as you can see, but it's not the end of the world. I have some health, and right now we can't kill this one. We will be able to kill them later on, but right now I cannot. By the way, yes, if you didn't know, you can always jump into water. You won't lose a lot of health, well, most of the time not at all. But wait, yes, we have this blue power slug, so let's see if we can't put it into our MAM, or at least transform it into something to overclock. And remember that we also actually had a yellow one in storage over here, so we can look at it. Yes, so power slug, we have unlocked 2 already. Then we could do this one, just need a bit of cable, let me go get them. And over here we could do this one too if we had this thing over here that is called a power shard, and we can actually do it. Because if we go into a craft bench, you can see that to make power shard, we can use the blue power slug. So perfect, let's do this. Good. Let me also just get a bit of cables so that we can unlock those 2 things. Let's put few more so that I have more after too, and go back into our MAM. Power slug, let's do both of them. Firstly this one, done, and then this one over here. And with that we have now unlocked overclock production. The last one requires a purple one that we don't have, but also modular frames and copper sheet that we have actually haven't started to do either. But now indeed the key thing is, if I go into any of my constructors or even miners, I can start to underclock or overclock. To overclock I will need a power shard, so we don't have any more some of these, but I can also start to underclock. And here 2 elements that I wanted to highlight to you is, you can say, I want it to work at 50%, but you can also decide exactly on the target rate. So if you know that, to align your production, you should only produce 10, you can also put that. I think that's really cool. Second thing I wanted to highlight is actually a great benefit of underclocking, and also a risk, let's say, of overclocking, is that the consumption of electricity is not linear. By that I mean, if you underclock and for example choose 50%, you are not going to use 50% of the electricity, you're actually going to use less than 50%. On the other hand, if you overclock and for example you choose 150%, you're not going to use 150% of your electricity, you're going to use even more than that. And that is why a lot of people say that the only things you should really overclock are your miners or similar resources nodes like this, because they're limited. There's a limited number of resources on the map, versus for the constructors, the assemblers, etc., you can always build more. So anyway, I hope you liked this episode. We built a screw factory, we built also a rotor factory, we now have our space elevators, right? So a lot of things happen. I know once again I didn't show you step by step. Don't hesitate to tell me in the comments below if you really want me to show you from start to finish how I make a factory like this, or if you indeed prefer what I've done today, which is to just show you at the end, what it looks like, go inside, explain what I've done. I'd love to hear your thoughts. It does take quite a lot of time, to create factories like this. So I think for you guys, it may be better indeed to just see the final result, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as I said, in the next episode, we definitely want to complete phase 1 of the space elevator to unlock tier 3 and 4, start discovering a bit more the map. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.